Hi, my name is Philippe. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well, and I thought today I would show you some of the books that I bought recently. This is a bit of an eclectic bunch. I have collected some more books over the last month, and they are just in completely different genres. I've got some non-fiction, I've got some fiction, I've got some classics, I even got some antique books. But the majority of these were secondhand. I feel like I should probably mention that I buy most of my books for really low prices. I know it looks a little bit ridiculous to be buying, 10 books a month or something like that, but I will actually mention some of the prices of the books that I bought, and there's one book I can't believe that I bought it for £2. But a lot of the books I buy are from a local charity shop, and the books there only cost £2 or £3, which means that I can buy a lot of books for the price of, say, one new release. So I have a tendency to end up with quite a high quantity, but I don't actually spend that much money on it. The first book that I bought secondhand off eBay is The Complete Poetical Works by Wordsworth. I think I bought this one for about £3, including shipping. Sadly, the spine is immensely faded. But to be honest, I don't really mind. In terms of the rest of the condition of the book, it's perfectly readable and the pages are in great condition, so I'm quite happy to use this copy. I recently read the journals of Dorothy Wordsworth, and it just made me really interested in the actual poetry of her brother. And I'm still really new to poetry, and I only knew Wordsworth in terms of, oh yeah, he's that guy who wrote those nature-y poems. This is a collection that I just want to take my time with. It is a lot of poetry, and it is a lot of nature poetry, so to read it all in one go I think would be way too much. This is a collection that I'm just going to dabble in a little bit, which is also why I bought it secondhand, because I wasn't 100% sure that I was actually going to enjoy it. The next book that I bought is The Island of Lost Maps, a true story of cartographic crime by Miles Harvey. I bought this one at a charity shop that I love to go to, and it was only £3. And honestly, this one is, it's slightly aged and the spine is a little bit cracked, but perfectly readable, so I'm really happy about this one. The premise sounds really fun. It's like a popular history book all about map thieving or important maps or maps that were kept secret or hidden and that sort of thing. I'm really looking forward to reading this. The next book I bought was actually a little bit of a splurge. It's called Rendez-Vous with Art by Philippe de Montebello and Martin Gayford. I also bought this book at the charity shop and it was £5. This is in excellent condition. It was a little bit more expensive than I'm used to from the charity shop, but it is a hardcover and it's fairly new as well, but it just looks to be in perfect condition. In this book, the two authors, one of whom is, I think, a retired director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the other is an art critic. And in this book, they go to see various art pieces in various museums around the world and then basically talk about art. I was mainly drawn to this book because it sounds a little bit more dynamic than a lot of books about art are. Some of them are really dry and sort of fact-based, and I thought this sounded a little bit more easygoing, and I don't know that much about art or art history, and I thought this might be just a nice place to explore various parts of art history. Next up, I have Nell, Gwyn, Mistress to a King by Charles Beauclerk. Nell Gwyn was a woman who lived in the 17th century, and she became really famous for being the mistress of Charles II. I also got this book from the charity shop and it was only £3. I love reading about the lives of historical women, so I think this one is going to be right up my alley. Then I also have The Ballad of Blind Tom, Slave Pianist, America's Lost Musical Genius by Deirdre O'Connell. This is a biography about Tom Wiggins, who was born into slavery, and sort of his journey through life and how he became to be a really famous pianist who toured the world. This sounds really interesting, so I'm really looking forward to diving into this as well. This copy just looks pretty much brand new, but I got it for £3 secondhand. Then for something completely different, I am hoping to relearn Latin. I took Latin in high school and I had it for about 6 years. However, I do not remember a single thing about it. If I'm really honest, I did not put a lot of effort into my Latin classes, and although I graduated and I did pass Latin as well, I basically got through just by using the dictionary on every single word I encountered. So I'm going to be taking an online class, and I'm hoping that'll spark something in my brain and I'll actually be able to read Latin this time around. So for this class, I got these 3 books. They're in the Reading Latin series. So there's a textbook, there's a workbook, and there's a study guide, which basically helps you with the solutions. They're published by Cambridge University Press, and I got all of these just secondhand off eBay. I think most of them only cost about £3 or £4. My goal with taking Latin is to be able to read the Aeneid, which is one of those really long epic poems. It's one of the most famous Latin works. We actually translated huge parts of the Aeneid in my 6th year of Latin. I did not appreciate what I had. So I'm just going to have to relearn it as an adult. And then one of the best finds I've ever had at the charity shop that I go to. This is a beautiful, beautiful historical vintage edition of Milton's poems. This edition is from the 1840s and it's in great condition actually, but I bought this and the sticker is still on the back. I bought this for £2. I just cannot believe that a book this old was being sold for £2. I'm so thrilled that I found this, and I'm so happy to be adding this to my collection of old books, and I think it's going to fit in just perfectly. I've read sections of Paradise Lost, but I'm really looking forward to diving back into it and also just owning this stunning edition. Next is another vintage book, and that is the Collected Poetical Works by Christina Rossetti. I bought this one off eBay for about £10, and the main reason I was actually looking for this is because I want to read more of Christina Rossetti's poetry. I've read a handful of things. I think I read Goblin Market a really long time ago, but I don't really remember it. But I do remember quite liking her poetry. However, there doesn't really seem to be a modern complete collection of her poetry. Most of the collections I could find were just selections. And somehow I'm just little bit of a completionist. I just want to have the whole thing. You know, if it's not going to be a ridiculously long book or in 6 different parts or something, I just want to have it all. And this was just a great combination of a book that is really beautiful. It's in a really good condition. There's a little bit of damage around the top, but honestly the pages are perfectly readable. And I'm just really happy to have all of the poetry, so I don't have to like overlap various editions and find out what editions contain what. That all just sounds like way too much work. Now I just have it all, and it also looks really beautiful. Then last but not least, I also have some German books. I recently finished my reread of Letters to a Young Poet, but this time I actually read it in the original German. I have a sort of passive knowledge of German because I grew up next to the German border, and sort of through, you know, that childlike osmosis of how children learn a language, I understand the majority of German, but I never really did that much with it. So I thought I really loved Letters to a Young Poet, and I was like, maybe I can read that in German. And I did, and it was really, really lovely. So I also thought, well, if I can read that, maybe I can just read the complete collection of Rilke's works in German. Rilke is primarily known for his poetry, so this collection contains 2 bind-ups of his poetry, as well as some of his novelistic works. So he also wrote a full novel, as well as I think some other writings, I'm not entirely sure. And then it also contains some of his non-fiction works. I initially looked into finding a collection of Rilke's works secondhand, but I found out that this was basically the easiest as well as cheapest option to just get everything. Also, it is absolutely beautiful, so I did order this from Germany. And last but not least, since I was already ordering books from Germany and I'm just apparently on a little bit of a kick of reading books in German, I also added the Diaries of Franz Kafka, and these are the diaries from 1909 to 1912. Franz Kafka is mainly known for his book The Trial, which is so immensely uncomfortable and odd that his name has turned into an adjective, Kafkaesque. And I'm always really intrigued about the writing life and about writers' diaries. I fairly recently read Virginia Woolf's writing diary, and I really, really loved that. So when I saw this, I was like, yeah, I would love to know what Franz Kafka was thinking when he was writing his various stories. I'm really curious to find out what Kafka was like as a person, because his fiction is so odd and dissociative and sort of terrifying in a really uncomfortable way. And I'm kind of curious to find out, you know, what what was the real Kafka like? Does he turn out to just be really boringly human, or is there something about him? So I'm excited to dive into his diaries, and I will keep you posted on how it goes. So that is all of the books that I bought recently, and it is quite an eclectic bunch, but I feel like that is quite appropriate for my channel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing well, I hope you have a great week, and I hope to see you again. Bye! My goal with taking Latin classes is actually to be able to read the Aeneid by Virgil? Virgil.